Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, and today we have a special podcast with two of my friends in the business for a long time who have an absolutely spectacular project that truly is one of the best pieces of, I hate to say pieces of content, but it's amazing what this is. So first, joining us from Westfield, New Jersey, I guarantee if you've been an NBA fan for 5 minutes or 50 years, you know his work. You will see him on hundreds of thousands of iconic photos from the NBA as Nathaniel S. Butler. But those of us in the league, and I'm talking about every star player for the last 5 decades, every media member knows him as Nat. So Nat Butler, welcome to the Hoop Collective.
Hey, Bryant, thanks for having us on.
Joining us from Los Angeles, California, who collaborated on the project I'm about to discuss, is my colleague at ESPN. But for the sake of this, is Nat's collaborator on this spectacular book that I'll talk about in a second, Dave McMenamin.
Happy to be here, and a special moment for me because now I get to share a podcast with both the people whose coattails I rode on a book project. So.
Right, we're not talking about that one. We're talking about this. So I know that this is more for the YouTube watchers and the listeners, but I am holding up this book that Nat and Dave have coming out this month. Record this a little early. It's coming out September 24th. It is called Courtside, 40 Years of NBA Photography. And it's Nat's. How many photos are in here, Nat, actually, that are in this book?
You know what? I don't even know. There's 288 pages. Some are isolated and some are, 2 or 3 on a page. I don't even know the final number.
So Nat's photos, Dave wrote a lot of the stories that go around both Nat and the photos. Seriously, you guys know I don't shill if you listen to this podcast. This product is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen for an NBA fan. It is from another era. It is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful book. I get sent dozens of books a year. This actually, from the two of you, is like a gift. This is a beautiful gift. I've shown some of them to my 6-year-old son and talked about it. Like, every single page, giant, full color, high quality photos. I mean, guys, what an amazing project. So Nat, this is 40 years, but where did this idea start? And most importantly, this project, I mean, these books are such beautiful productions. Like, I don't even know how in 2024 you guys even got this to be done, Nat.
Thank you for those kind words, Brian. That means a lot coming from you. You know what? People have always asked me, when are you going to do a book? Like,
to be clear, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Like,
Nat works for the NBA Photos. He's worked for the NBA since the early 80s. Dave wrote in the book that your office when you were an intern was 3 doors down from David Stern, who wasn't even the commissioner yet, right?
Right.
So you work for NBA Photos, and that's why you've gotten all these photos. I neglected to say that because in the business we all know that. So sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. Obviously a lot has changed over the 40 years, but people kept asking, when are you going to do a book? And I just never, I never thought that I would have. This is kind of like a greatest hits album, and I'm always trying to get the next best image and never really had time to do a project like this. But like everyone else during the pandemic, we had some free time. I started going through some old film, looking at things, had some free time, which is unusual for me. And
yeah, how many games do you shoot a year, do you think?
You know what? I don't want to put a quantify because it could be a little depressing. How much for all of us lifers, how much time we spend in a hotel away from our families.
Right.
But typically during the season, it's 5 or 6 games a week. So it's a lot.
Yeah. And you and I were just all across the world with Team USA this summer. You've done Team USA for decades.
Right.
Dave, I'm jealous that you get to put your name on this book. I assume, knowing your history of the game and your connection to some of the people that are featured in this book, I have to assume that you are very happy to be a part of this. If you say no, I'm going to be mad at you.
Well, I mean, I'll start with being associated with Nat's work was the true honor here, because I was a fan of Nat's before I even knew who Nat was. I mentioned in the acknowledgments that there's a image of Jordan in the book that Nat took of him dunking with two hands. I had an upper deck guard. There's an image of Allen Iverson that ended up, him holding his hand to his ear and flooring the Philadelphia crowd to make more noise. My brother turned that into a watercolor painting, and that hangs in
was Nat given a royalty for that watercolor photo?
So well before I got to know him, and that's a wonderful guy. And again, the countless games that we go to, the arenas around the country, around the world, sometimes he's always someone. If I walk into an arena, I see Nat, I'm like, great, I'm going to have a great 20-minute conversation on the court. Maybe we're going to eat the media meal together if he has any time, because he's still setting up his cameras. He's just someone I light up when I see him, and I light up even more so when I see what he comes out of a game with. Just iconic images time and time again. And I will say this, as Nat says he's trying to chase that next great image, after we put the book to bed, after much consternation over what photos we're going to choose, he has to go and one-up himself by taking the iconic image of the 2024 NBA Finals of Jason Tatum holding up his son Deuce with the confetti exploding in the background.
If I told Nat when I saw that photo, if that's not a wall-size photo in the Tatum household, because absolutely. And so, look, during the games, Nat, you typically will sit on the baseline. People, when they see you, they will, I'm sure if they watch games, they will, or in the future, they'll see you sitting baseline.
Right.
But some of the greatest photos in this, and so you have some incredible game action, which we'll show in a minute, and you've got a lot of that. But so much more of the greatest stuff you have is from behind the scenes, where the players who've gotten to trust you over the decades allow you to be with them, especially, which we'll talk about as I show some of these photos, in the moments after they've won the championship.
Right.
You have some incredible moments where you got incredible access for those moments.
Right. You know what? At the heart of it, I'm so fortunate, and I think we're all. I'm a fan. We're not hollering and clapping and cheering and stuff, but I'm a fan of the game of basketball, and the marriage between my passion for photography and basketball has really been a blessing for me. As a fan, I do love those fly on the wall moments that most people don't get to see. I'm fortunate enough to see them, whether it's in the locker room, pre or post game, those kind of moments, the solitude of these guys. And over the years, having their trust does mean a lot to me, because I don't need a lot. It's one or two clicks. I'm in, I'm out, because I'm very respectful of their place. And you do earn their trust over time. And just truly fortunate to have been there over these years for some really memorable NBA moments.
So this book has forwards by Adam Silver and Patrick Ewing. I assume that you had a good relationship with Patrick, all the Knicks games, Nat, that you.
It took me a while, because I kid with Dave about Syracuse. I was a St. John's guy and did not like Patrick. I'm a Chris Cullen St. John's guy, and we did not come out on the winning end too frequently against Georgetown. It took a while, but I loved Patrick. I will always, sometimes in the NBA, it's all about the ring culture. They're like, oh, he doesn't have a ring. I will defend him till the end of time about that. We did a phone interview, and Dave helped craft that forward, and it meant a lot to me. And what he had to say was truly special to me. likewise for Adam. Being around all these years, working alongside each other, on a personal level, both of those meant a great deal to me.
Yeah, usually getting a forward done for a book is like pulling teeth. You guys have two forewords, Adam Silver and Patrick Ewing, and an afterword by Spike Lee. So that just tells you about you guys. So the way this book is done is you have quotes from all of these players about these photos, which the photos themselves, even if you don't have that context, is remarkable. But like everybody, quotes from everybody. And I assume that this took years to get these, because like you've got Kawhi Leonard quoting on photos. Like that's it's not easy to get Kawhi Leonard on an average day, much less to quote on photos, plus guys who are retired. How did you guys do that, and how long did it take, and what was your process? Did you just pull them up on your phone, or what did you do?
So Nat and I kind of strategized here, because obviously both of us have developed relationships with players and coaches throughout the league in our time covering it. And he's at 40 years. I'm at around 20 years. And so, we would check in every so often, and I have these games coming up and this team's going to come through town and I should be able to get this guy, or I know this PR person who could probably help me out. And it was kind of, once we started to get a few underneath our belt, then we could go to the PR person. Well, hey, Steph's already talked to us and Giannis has already talked to us. And, that would help. Maybe then you're going to unlock Kevin Durant, or et cetera, et cetera. Once the players heard that some of the other bigger names were involved with it, I think it gave them a sense of what this project was. And, my goal was to not just have this be a beautiful coffee book, but it's really a historical document. Absolutely. Of the last 40 years.
I can't emphasize this enough. That is not a sales pitch. It is truly one of the most remarkable products I've seen in 20 plus years covering the NBA. And forget it if you're in a bookstore. I know there's not that many bookstores anymore. Forget it. If you pick this up and you're an NBA fan, I'm guaranteeing you're buying it. Like, I'm just going to tell you. So, it won't be quite the same. You don't see it, you order it online, but I'm just going to tell you, you can save yourself, because coming across it, because you're just going to buy it. All right. I'm going to go over some of the photos that I thought were amazing in this book. And I know for the podcast audience, you're going to be missing that. I'll do my best to describe it. Sorry. Okay. This is an iconic photo, Nat. This is the Bill Russell. If you're an NBA fan, there's no way you don't know this photo. Bill Russell with his head in his hands, with his 11 rings on his fingers, smiling. It's one of the greatest non-action photos, I would argue, of the last 30 years, and just an absolute iconic photo. Nat, can you tell us about taking this and coming up with this concept, and how much it took to get his rings all on his fingers and everything?
Well, that was a thrill for me. We were doing NBA at 50. There was a book project involved for that, so we were doing some portraits. And obviously, the name Bill Russell, the first thought that comes to mind is 11 championships. So coming up with that concept was not difficult. The crazy thing, and Dave is still working on this because we're not done with something yet, is that Bill Russell did not receive 11 rings. And a lot of fans don't know that after they won a couple of championships, they no longer got rings. So we had to borrow rings from some of the teammates in front of some of the front office people in order to signify that particular shot. And there is a lot of folklore involved, and unfortunately, a lot of people have passed, but we're continuing to do a investigative reporting on what they actually received, because there's rumors that one year, instead of ring, he got cufflinks, he got a watch. There was a rumor that the Celtics had a a deal with Zenith, and guys got a Zenith TV console instead of getting a ring. And it's crazy stories, and we're still delving into trying to find out fact from fiction, because he did not receive 11 rings. So then it was tricky for me to photograph because I didn't want, someone else's name or year visible. So it just focused on his eyes, his smile, his cackle. Everyone knows the.
Oh my God, that was legendary.
It was just, for me, again, as a fan, that was like a life-changing moment and he loved the photo.
How could he not?
He had then used that for some of his things years later, but just certainly a highlight of my career was meeting him and having the opportunity to take that photo.
By the way, real quick, this wasn't on my list, but I just passed it. Dave, you said that your brother did a watercolor of Iverson. Was it Iverson?
Iverson, yeah.
This is D. Brown. I did in my art class. So this is D. Brown winning the dunk contest, 1980 whatever, 1990 whatever, where he covered up his eyes. And I was obsessed, Dave. You can appreciate this as a shoe man, with these black Reebok pumps.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with this dunk contest. And I met D 20 years later, I don't know, and just told him how much of a impacted me. I actually drew this in one of my art classes. I mean, not very well. And I lusted after those shoes. I ended up getting pumps, but not the black ones with the orange, pump. But
excellent. I love that.
You can't always get what you want. All right. So this next one, you had 3 or 4 photos. So basically there's clusters of photos in here of individual players and moments, and that's how you go through it. And one of them that you included, Nat, and I've never talked to you about this, but I have to assume you had a remarkable relationship in memory with him, was Dražen Petrović. And this amazing photo must have been for some magazine shoot. It's across 2 pages of Dražen laying on a couch, a very 1990s couch. I can say. So why did you include Dražen Petrović and this photo in there?
That's a great question, because the most difficult part for me was who gets in, who doesn't, because you have limited, space. Dražen was in my mind one of the first international players that was on the cusp of becoming a superstar. And that particular photo, he had been on the Nets for 2 years, and we went to his apartment for the shoot, and he had a television, he had his Nets bag, and he had a mattress on the floor in his apartment, and he had lived there for 2 years. And that was all he had. And he was either at the gym or sleeping, watching TV at home. That's all he cared about. It was not a NBA fancy player apartment. It was
it was not an NBA player couch, even in 1993.
And it just sort of spoke to me again as a fan and who he was. And I think it's important for all of us, Dave mentioned this being a little bit of a historical document, is for some of the younger generation to know who these guys were. And he literally lived in the gym and the practice facility, and that was all he cared about. And there was some good comments, from players who had the respect of him, because, like I said, he was on the verge of becoming an NBA superstar before his unfortunate passing.
So, unfortunately, speaking of unfortunate passings, I'm going to hit McMenamin in the feels here, Nat. This is another iconic photo. Again, I'm picking non-game action. We have game action here, but this is, these are some of the stuff that gets me. So this is Kobe Bryant after winning the championship in 2001, sitting in the bathroom at, I don't even know what it's called, the Wells Fargo Center. I don't even know. Core States. I think it was probably Dave the Core States Spectrum.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
After winning the championship in 2001, sitting, sort of by himself with the trophy. It looks like he's in the toilet or the shower, Nat. wearing the Lakers back-to-back championship like leather
Right.
jackets that they probably ordered quite a while in advance. I have not seen since, Dave. Yes, T-shirts and hats are provided. I have never seen like custom sized.
Not the night of, yeah. Jeff Hamilton still makes them, but as a specialty item after the fact.
Yeah, it says back-to-back champions on there. It wasn't like they were wearing the previous years.
Exactly,
So,
right.
They were unfazed after Iverson took them down in Game 1 in LA. They were one of the most dominant teams of all time. It wasn't, but Nat, Kobe in this photo, where is he? If you told me he was sitting on a toilet, I wouldn't say that was impossible because it looked like he's in a bathroom.
He was in the shower actually, and they had a little like a fold down. It could have almost been like, for a handicapped person in the shower. And again, just a quick isolated moment, a couple of clicks, giving him his space, him taking it all in, was just fortunate enough to be there and capture that moment.
And this is replicated, like Brian, this image comes back again and again and again, because obviously
it's iconic. Yeah.
Well, Kobe's influence continues to be felt throughout the league, but you'll see, I think I've seen Paige Becker do it, Kyle Kuzma, I think even Caitlin Clark, just off the top of my head, there's, in the last 5 years, and this photo is more than 20 years old.
Yeah. There's a bunch of great Kobe shots in here. I'm not going to show.
People send me pictures of them having that like tattooed on themselves and stuff.
Oh my God, Nat, your photos are tattooed on people.
I don't know if I should take pride in that or be a little concerned about that.
Okay, here's game action. Dave and I were there for this. This was June 2016. An angle that I don't think I'd ever seen before of Kyrie Irving's iconic shot. This is, again, you must like this because it's across 2 pages. Dave and I wrote a book about this team and essentially largely about this game. Like, if we didn't write a book about this game, we could have. I want to just hold this up because this is a shot for the listeners. This illustrates how good of a contest that Steph Curry made on the Kyrie shot. This is from the baseline where you're seated just left of the basket, looking out towards the shot. And Steph got a great contest on that shot. I having written exhaustively about that night, the play that Kyrie makes there, Steph is watching the shot clock tick down at the other end. He's watching he's out of his right eye. Steph's watching to try to gauge because it's an ISO. He knows he's taking the shot. And Kyrie is dribbling the ball in his right hand. And Steph is expecting Kyrie to cross over right to left and then raise up, cradling the ball in his left hand, putting his right hand behind it. That is typically how a right hand shooter would set up for a shot. He would cross over right to left and then raise up. Kyrie, because he's a master with the ball, does a right-handed or right side escape dribble where he dribbles to his right as his sort of, it wasn't a crossover, but it accomplishes the same thing. It creates space because it repositions the ball. And it's just something that opens up 3 inches of space, which is the same thing a crossover does. But when you're not expecting it, it happens. And so Kyrie does sort of the sideways escape dribble and then raises up. And that gives him just the separation to get the ball over the shot. Now, you took a bunch of shots in the next 10 to 15 minutes, Nat, that are iconic in Cleveland. I can tell you that, on and around that court. Some of them are in here. But this shot, the reason I pulled this out is because this is a different version of a different angle of a historic event that gives you a new perspective, which I appreciate.
Right. No, I love those moments like that, that particular game between that shot. It it from a photography standpoint, oh, you don't see his face, Steph's arm is in the way, blah, blah, blah. But to your point, it was a crazy, difficult shot because of the contest from Steph. And it's a moment in history. It could be arguably one of the biggest shots in NBA history. And then in the context of that game, that shot, the LeBron chase down block, like I live for that stuff. It's crazy exciting for me. And Dave got some great quotes from Ty Lue about that particular shot. As a coach, he was probably like, oh, no, yes, one of those moments, because it was the degree of difficulty on that shot alone, not even in the context of a game 7, like the whole flow of things was amazing. And it just lends itself to a beautiful image. You see the fans' reaction in the background.
Yes, that's always appreciated.
And it
you can see 2,000 fans' hearts about to be broken in a matter of in a second.
Absolutely.
So there's a 4-pack of photos here from the night LeBron passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the scoring record, but the one that I want to point out is the Wilt Chamberlain style shot, where LeBron is holding the piece of paper, smiling, 38,390 for his, as a trope on the Wilt Chamberlain holding up the 100 after he scored 90, scored 100 points, and another iconic photo. How come you didn't take that photo, Nat? Where were you at on that night?
You know what? I was busy that day.
But I know this because I was there. You had that ready for him, that piece of paper ready for him, and you can just tell LeBron's face. He's so appreciative of what he's doing, is taking this photo. So I wondered if, I know you've been with LeBron for many, many moments, including this summer when he was named MVP of the Olympics. But if you could just take us into those moments of, like, when you do that, and because at that point the locker room was empty, right? You waited until he was empty. I think his sons were there.
It was late, but that's one of the few times in my job description. You guys as writers often, have to pre-think your questions, and that was one of the few times Dave and I had discussed that ahead of time, because we knew he was going to break the record at some point. So I was at that game. I don't get to LA too often, unfortunately, but that was one moment where I was able to conceive a photo, if you will. And Dave and I had discussed that. Dave, and I'll remember this. We wrote on the with a Sharpie, and then we wanted to make it a little thicker, make it more visible. But LeBron has always been great with me. Dave has a good relationship with him, and I think he understands, again, the historical significance of certain moments. So again, literally 10 seconds of his time, you take 2 clicks with your camera, and then a photo like that does become a historical moment.
Yeah, Brian, but just you and I have been around LeBron, obviously, so much of our careers. There are a few people who cause LeBron James to light up the way that Nat does when he enters in the locker room or he's on the court and LeBron acknowledges them. There's a connection there, and I think maybe LeBron may have the largest section, or close to it, the largest section of any player in this book, because Nat's been there for all of it.
Yes, you can study the many phases of LeBron in this book.
It was hard to narrow it down. Yeah. I have been fortunate again to follow him. He's always been very gracious. But to narrow it down to 10 or 12 pages of LeBron was very, very difficult, because it could do an entire book or 200 pages of just LeBron. But that particular is, again, an NBA historical moment.
Okay. Speaking of NBA historical moments, I'm showing this for several different reasons. This is the behind the backboard, through the backboard shot of a split second before the chase down block. LeBron on
I have
Andre
mixed
Iguodala.
feelings about that photo.
Okay, go on.
Well, here's the deal. People oftentimes don't understand. I get one click. I'm not on a motor drive per se. So it's literally 1/800th of a second where I click. And if you watch that, I've watched that replay a million times. Iggy felt LeBron's presence and he hesitated a bit, and that threw off my timing. Ideally, I want LeBron hand on the ball, but that Iggy hesitation of literally a millisecond caused that photo to be a little bit early. There's an anticipation. We all know he blocked it, but from a photographic standpoint, I would have preferred his hand like right on the ball. But I'll take it.
Okay, but here's the thing. First off, Dave writes in the book about how you were one of the pioneers of remote control photography. Obviously, you were not physically sitting behind the backboard.
Right.
You took this from remote location.
The opposite.
You were one of the people that developed this technology. So that's number one.
Right.
I don't know how you did that, but I didn't know that was in your job description, but you did that. The second thing about this, you just mentioned the hesitation. I have not talked to Andre Iguodala about this. I'm not sure he would talk to me about it on the record, at least, but at some point I'd like to talk to him. I have long speculated that in this moment, the reason that he ducked, you watch the replay, when he goes up, he ducks, and that sort of duck and move to the side a little bit gives LeBron the extra split second to get there. I speculate, don't know, of course, and maybe Andre doesn't even know. I speculate Andre Iguodala did not want to get fouled. And he was avoiding J.R. Smith's foul because he had, I think, made 2 of his last 8 free throws, and not too much previously in that game, he had missed 2 at the line. And right. I go to the line. And so he was trying to avoid getting fouled. And that's why he ducked a little bit when JR came across him, which is the moment you're capturing here. But let me tell you what I love about this photo. One, you can see LeBron's eyes a split second before he makes this. That's awesome. And again, a different viewpoint as he's tracking the play. A moment in time, and it's huge. The second thing is you can see Steph's eyes. So behind him, Steph made the pass to Iguodala on the what was a 2-on-1 break, suddenly became a 1-on-2 break in a split second. But you can see Steph's eyes, and that's again a perspective that you didn't see. Dave, you got a great quote here from LeBron that was in this, and I'm going to read. The chase down block, one of the signature defensive plays, but it happened in one of the most pivotal moments in NBA history, in finals history. To be able to get back in transition and not goaltend, not foul, and make that play, that was dope. I really like that quote.
LeBron gave credence to the project. We had all the pages printed out of the images that LeBron was in, and I kind of just placed him in his lap, and he thumbed through the pages, and the ones that spoke to him, he obviously described what was going on, and you know, that's one that it as special as the play was, it will live on even more so from the work of people like Nat to have the image attached to it. And of course there was, close to 30 million viewers watching ABC's broadcast of Game 7, but and that will live on YouTube and stuff. But the physical images, the static images sometimes are just as powerful.
Exactly. That's kind of the point of the book, the static images. Okay, game action here. You mentioned this in the intro part that Dave wrote about your career, Nat. You singled out this photo as one of your all-time favorites. This is Ray Allen. Again, we're going heavy with LeBron. Big moments here. Go ahead and grip me. I don't care. 2013 NBA Finals, Game 6. Ray Allen. Again, this is one of the reasons why this is so fascinating. This is a different angle of an iconic shot. So you're at the other end,
right?
I assume sitting on the floor here, taking the shot from the long angle. And again, what you get to see here is not only the clock and not only Ray's elevation and the ball coming out of his hands, but you also get to see what the other people are doing on the court, including LeBron, who has already decided it's going in. You described this as one of your favorite things that you were able to get.
Again, because of the context and the implications of that moment. It wasn't a game 7. They didn't win the title. They still had another game to play. But the context of that, it's the NBA Finals, the significance of it. And then for me personally, I was not even remotely surprised that it went in. You mentioned us with our remote cameras and things, like typically we're at a game 3 or 4 hours or more ahead of time. And while I'm there, setting up for my craft, Ray Allen is there working on his craft. And you guys know this. The work is the results are in the work. And it didn't surprise me at all. But Ray's composure of, just taking a couple steps back after the Bosch rebound, not panicking. There was still plenty of time. A lot of teams would have panicked. Ray just calmly stepped backwards to the 3-point line and drilled that shot. And it, like I said, it didn't surprise me at all, but the context of it, because to my left is Popovich and Duncan. If he misses it, you pan to them hugging and they win a title.
Yeah, Duncan on the bench.
Well, that's that. I don't think anyone will ever have the nerve to ask Pop directly about that particular question. But like, that's sports, right? He misses it, you pan to the left. It's Pop hugging Duncan, and LeBron and the Heatles only win 1 title, not 2. Like the whole entire landscape changes on that one shot.
So the quotes here, Dave, from Ray Allen, as was in the moment, he talks a lot about the rope. This is historic in the Heat organization. This shot shows it's not so much the rope that I think that was key. It was that they put all of the, gold jacketed security personnel all the way around the court. The rope itself was very small. It would have, if the rope was just there, I don't think people would have noticed it. It was Ray says the rope, but you can see at Ray's feet and all around him, all of the people getting ready to stand up and secure the court because they think the visiting team is about to win the championship. And Ray talked extensively, about this shot.
Brian, do me a favor. Take off the book jacket and hold up the book.
I don't want to hurt my thing here. It's the outside of the book.
There you go. Yeah.
I see.
Little Easter egg for you.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So that's good. So, but why out of everything, Nat, was it just that? Why is that one alone?
Again, like I've always been like a fan of Ray's from back in the Big East days, and we all have our personal favorites of things. And at just that moment, again, like I said, the Spurs would have won. I want to say, would they have won 6 championships? Duncan has the same as Michael.
Well, we don't know what would happen the next year. They ended up winning their 5th next year. The next year,
but but to me that the signifies the sports, and it just that again. I keep using the word moment, but it's about those moments. That shot, the Kyrie shot. It's moments in history.
So I like this photo just because I wanted to know about how it was taken. This is a photo from the 2004 All-Star Weekend with Yao Ming and Shaq standing back to back, and Shaq looking at him and pointing at him, and Yao clearly being like 3 or 4 inches taller than him. But you are eye level with them, so I assume that this was taken on a ladder.
We used what we call apple boxes. I to climb up on, and literally. Yao was the only person ever that made Shaq look smaller. Shaq dwarfs people. There's a shot in the book of Shaq guarding MJ on a switch where he's out on the perimeter guarding MJ, and MJ, who's 6'6" and buff, looks tiny compared to Shaq. But the picture of Yao, and I think even Shaq was surprised at how big Yao was when they went back to back. And Shaq was always great with his expressions, and he gave, again, one click and a great expression from Shaq. Is like, get a load of this guy. He dwarfs me, and just kind of a fun moment.
So this is a photo from the Dream Team in 1992. This photo is of Magic going down the lane. Actually, not in the Olympics, in the sort of the pre-event of the Olympics, the
Right.
Tournament of the Americas against Canada, with Gary Payton in the background. The reason I wanted to ask you about that is that you've told me some things about being around the Dream Team, the 92 Dream Team, and the memories you have of being with that. And back then, like the cadre, the entourage that was around everything was much smaller. That is people, that's part of documentaries and stuff. That Dream Team is sort of part of lore.
Right.
That experience, I just know you've told me about it, but was really singular in your career.
Yeah, it just because of the way that came together for all of the obvious reasons. And I think things were different in those days. The players themselves were not like BFF with all of the other players. Like, they didn't hang out together much in the off season. Things were different. Magic obviously had just come back to play. He played in the All-Star game in the Olympics that year because of his HIV situation. He hadn't even played, so people didn't know if he could play. It was amazing that he could play. Bird was at the tail end because of his back injuries, and then you find out somehow Bird and Patrick Ewing became buddies on that over the course of that thing. Totally opposite personalities and stuff. And just being able, again, being a fly on the wall, practices, bus rides, being around those guys was extraordinary for me. And the memories from that, I had to include that in the book. We have some licensing things with Olympics that we can't, do certain things, but those were all done. They don't have the Olympic rings and stuff in it. But I'll never forget, there were opposing players. This was pre-cell phone. Opposing players had cameras on the bench, and they would be taking pictures during the game, like Magic's posting up a guy, and he's yelling to his teammates on the bench, now, and he's posing for a picture guarding Magic. Things like that. The opening tip, if you ever watch video, the opening tip every game, the flash bulbs going off is remarkable. And just being able to, oftentimes, and you guys can attest that when you're in the moment, we're all working and you're really focused. But then when you do have an opportunity to look back on some of these moments, it really is amazing that we were fortunate enough to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I had an absolute blast covering this run this summer with this team. I mean, that from a straight star standpoint, arguable the redeemed team and this year's team, but nothing will be like 92, right? I mean, that's certainly,
and it's different. Like, I tell people, like, how baseball comes into a city and they're there for 4 or 5 games or something. Basketball is different. It's in, out, in, out. You don't really get a chance to be with the guys much. So on these USA trips, those are some of the more memorable things I've done, just simply because you have meals with them. You're at the breakfast table. Hey, what's up? Then you get on the bus, you go to like, you're with them for extended periods of time, a couple of weeks or so. Everyone lets their guard down. It's different than the course of a regular season where they're in and out of cities, every night. So it's, again, as a fan, it's just a fun time to be a part of that.
Man, well, okay, I showed like 7 photos out of the 200. Like, my highest recommendation for Nat and Dave's work here. Just loved it. Great work. Good luck promoting it. I feel bad for you because the amount of people that are going to want this thing. you're going to get bothered from a lot of people who are going to want this.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And it was fun working with Dave because I know I have to stay in my lane. I'm a very visual person. I'm the kind of guy, it takes me 20 minutes to write 3 sentences on a birthday card. I am a failed, miserable writer, and it was fun for us to do together, for sure.
Well, congratulations. It's a tremendous product. Again, Courtside. I took off the cover, so I don't remember the tagline, 40 years of NBA photography. And I'm so glad that you got cooperation from all these people. But I think the fact that you got cooperation speaks to that, you know, in and of itself. Obviously, the pictures are what's important, but the cooperation for somebody who works in the media, that's a tremendous validation, I think, of the way you've gone about your business. So thank you for coming on the Hoop Collective. Thank you to Jackson. Sorry, Jackson, no Syracuse, guys. I totally skipped right over the card. There's Carmelo. There's a lot of good Carmelo stuff. I skipped right over it and just to flagrantly upset you and Dave.
Well, put Ty and Anthony in the next book.
And Dave Bing is in the NBA at 50 and NBA at 75 group photos, and Nat took those.
Derek Coleman was it?
Yeah, right? We got DC in there and Minute Ball.
Yeah, the I didn't show this, but yes, as Dave mentioned, the 1997 NBA 50th anniversary, and then the 2022 was it in Cleveland?
In Cleveland,
the 75th anniversary, and the group shots of all of those people. You could probably do a little novelette, a little novella, a little mini doc on just those, getting the guys together to take those photos. I'm sure, Nat, but you can just spend hours with this book. So highly recommend it again. Thanks for listening and watching the Hoop Collective. We'll talk to you soon.